What's up, everyone? It's the OOTP GM. This is the 38th episode of my Detroit Tigers GM Let's Play on Out of the Park Baseball 18. So this is the 2024 season review episode, and we had an excellent season. For the second time in 3 years, we won 113 games. We just ran away with the division this year. As you can see, we finished 31 games ahead of the Kansas City Royals, and more than 40 games ahead of everybody else in the division. It's an excellent season all around for us, top to bottom. We finished for the first time in a long time. I don't remember how long it's been since we didn't lead the AL in runs scored, but we were second in runs scored, second across the board. Runs scored, batting average, on base percentage, home runs. And our pitchers were just super dominant this year. We were first in runs against, in starters ERA and bullpen area. Our bullpen was electric this year. Might have had the best bullpen ever. It was just ridiculous. And our 113 wins, I want to mention that I actually thought we had a chance to break the all-time record. We were on pace for like 120 wins at one point, but then things kind of fell apart for us at the end. So, but still, really good season. I'm not going to argue with a 113 win season. So, but let's get into kind of a recap of what happened during the season. So our team got off to kind of a slow start. And we had some hitters get off to slow starts, and Bryce Harper was one of them. And so, even though it's super cheap in both a literal and figurative sense, I signed Bryce Harper to an extension because his price came down because he was kind of struggling at the beginning of the year. So we signed Bryce Harper to a 6-year deal worth $161 million. The 6th year is a team option, and we managed to get him signed. So he still gets a raise. You can see here, 25, 26, $30 million team option in the 6th year. But it's a little bit more reasonable than having to pay him $45 million per season, which is what he was asking for before. But we got Bryce Harper signed to an extension. I was super happy about that. And then Fulmer threw a no-hitter early on in the season on the 4th of May. He threw a no-hitter against the Cleveland Indians. And then in the first-year player draft, we got all of our guys signed that we got in the first 5 rounds. This Chris Helfinger was actually our number 1 pick, 23rd overall pick. He is a pitcher. He's definitely a bullpen guy. Has closer potential down the line. You can see 80 potential for stuff. 70 fastball, 75 curveball. So that was our first round pick. And most of the other guys, it was a really poor draft class this year. There was no. According to our scout, there were no 5-star prospects this year. There were a handful of 4.5s and then some 4s, but it was a really, really low quality in terms of the draft class this year. And then we made a trade mid-season. We ended up trading Brady Scott, the pitcher, and we traded kind of this low-level center fielder to the New York Yankees for a couple of prospects, this left fielder Jeff Ramsey, a center field prospect, and then a pitching prospect. Unfortunately, one of them got hurt, but I made this trade ultimately because we kind of didn't have a place for Scott, and they actually offered something somewhat similar to this and we just have tons of depth in our system. And they offered something similar to this, so I ended up deciding to go ahead and pull the trigger on the deal. So we ended up trading Brady Scott. We get 3 solid prospects in return. I was happy about that. And then when we got to the midseason, he was pretty happy about how our team was doing midseason. Gary DiSarcina had his contract running out. We did end up re-signing him to an extension. So DiSarcina is going to be back as our bench coach. And then in terms of the All-Star teams, we had a handful of guys make the All-Star team. Michael Fulmer yet again made the All-Star team. I'll go over his individual season later, but he made the All-Star team. Jared LeKind made the All-Star team. He had a really great year. Steckenrider made the All-Star team. And then both Trout and Harper. For the second straight year, I think Reynaldo Rivera got screwed out of an all-star spot. I was really disappointed that he didn't get one. There's a couple of other guys that I thought on our team deserved all-star selections, but they didn't get them. The reason why I have this note here, this trade proposal from New York, they offered us, this is a couple weeks before the trade deadline, they offered us Gleyber Torres in a trade, who is their superstar shortstop prospect. And they wanted quite a haul in return. They wanted like Walker Buehler and Jim Bland, who I think is who is our number one prospect. But part of me actually would have seriously considered this deal if we hadn't drafted Ronnie Mercurio, the guy we got in the Rule 5 draft. If we hadn't drafted him, I would have seriously considered this trade offer that we got from them. But that was a pretty interesting trade offer we got from them mid-season. I saved this as well because Michael Fulmer struck out 16 batters in a game this year. It was against Tampa Bay Rays. We got Steckenrider re-signed to an extension. We kept him around 4 years, $68 million. I believe, there's a team. So it's 15, 16, 17, then a team option for 20. I didn't want to go too lengthy because he's already 33 years old. He's going to turn 34 during the offseason, so I didn't want to go too lengthy with him, but he still is a really great pitcher, still has really great statistics, so I was happy to bring him back. And then we made a couple of trade deadline moves, nothing like ridiculous, but we traded this really low-level pitcher who actually ended up retiring to the Oakland, and we got this Max Schock in return. He's a utility guy. He didn't play very well for us, but we didn't give up much to get him. He was our new kind of utility guy because he plays 5 different positions, so that's why we got him, and his contract runs out at the end of the year. So that's why we traded him, because we ended up trading Dwayne Pippy in another deal to the Chicago White Sox for Blake Beers, and then, of course, Blake Beers ended up having a career-ending injury, and he ended up having to retire because of it, so that was unfortunate. But that's why we made the deal here, because we had ended up trading away Pippy. And then we signed a couple more of our bullpen guys. We brought back Keona Kella. I'm a little bit disappointed, though, because after we signed him, his ratings just plummeted. According to our head scout, his ratings just fell off. Now, it's only a 1-year deal, so I'm okay with that. But I brought him back because he'd been pitching so well for us. I also brought Minter back because he's been so great for us as well. I signed him to a multi-year deal, $6.5 million for the next 3 years, and then a team option for 8. So I brought Minter back, and then we ended up clinching the division on September 4th. So it was a pretty good. Like I said, we were just running away with the division at this point. And then we had a few guys get injured throughout the year. This Corbin Martin guy, he came back to our team, and then he got re-injured. He didn't even record an out, and he got re-injured. So, unfortunately, we traded for him. He had 3 games that he appeared in us, and he's never appeared for us again. So he probably won't be back for us. We lost Bo Burrows late in the year. He was kind of struggling a little bit this year, but we lost him to a biceps injury, so he won't be back for the rest of the season. And then this Ronnie that we got in the Rule 5 draft, he was actually playing pretty well for us in his rookie campaign. 110 games, hitting .268, .310 on base, and .370 slugging. But he got hurt kind of in the middle of the year, and then he suffered 2 setbacks, which have caused him to continue to remain on disabled list. So he's not going to be back at all, I don't think, for the entirety of the postseason. So that was really disappointing to see him continue to have those setbacks. And then in terms of our actual team, so I'll go over the pitching staff first because they were just ridiculously amazing this year. So Michael Fulmer should win the Cy Young this year. He was just incredible. 15-5. 243 strikeouts, 2.81 ERA, 2.61 FIP, and 8 WAR. So Fulmer was just absolutely incredible for us this year. And then Faedo had himself a breakout campaign. Buehler had a breakout campaign, but Faedo had a really nice year too as well. 17-6, 3.91 ERA, 4.6 WAR, 3.62 FIP. Buehler is actually the guy who had his breakout campaign this year. Finally started to show that promise that we had hoped to see from him. He went 14-8, 3.44 ERA, so finally got his ERA way down below 4. 3.9 WAR. And then this William Soto was really good for us, actually, as a starter this year. 12-8, 3.97 ERA, 3.67 FIP, 3.9 WAR. So he was really good. And then our bullpen across the board was really, really good. We didn't have anybody with an ERA outside of Paco Rodriguez. Nobody in our bullpen had an ERA over 4. And his ERA kind of bloated here at the end. He was actually doing really well up until the end of the year. But, yeah, our whole bullpen was just really good this year. Steckenrider was fantastic. 45 saves, a 1.84 ERA. Just across the board, you can see here just with the stats, just across the board, everybody was really good. So, a really great year across the board for our pitching staff. And then hitters, a lot of guys had nice bounce back years. Max Pentecost had a really nice bounce back year for us after his bad year last year. He actually was hitting over 300 for most of the season, then got kind of cold at the end. But a nice bounce back season from him, a 3.4 WAR season after his just abysmal campaign last year where he barely registered above a 0 WAR. So that was nice to see from him. Nice to get some confidence back with him. Reynaldo Rivera took a big step back this year. He was injured a little bit during the year, but only hit 264 this year, 24 home runs, 81 RBIs, compared to his just massive Rookie of the Year campaign last year. Regan Todd was kind of up and down this year. Numbers are somewhat similar, but he was up and down. Barati was not very good for us this year as our second baseman. He kind of lost his starting spot multiple times. And then Santana was kind of up and down. Like I said, Max Schock was terrible after we traded for him, so we're going to have to make a decision on him after the season. Vladimir Guerrero had a really great year for us. Really picked it up at the end. And then our outfield was really good again. Kendall had a pretty good season. Mike Trout was really good. And Bryce Harper probably will win the MVP again. He was actually in contention for the Triple Crown, but kind of lost it with his average at the end. But looks like another MVP caliber season for Bryce Harper. And Stephen Young was pretty good as a fill-in guy in the outfield. He actually took the DH spot away from Regan Todd during the year and did pretty well with it. So, again, we got really good performances all around from pretty much everybody on the team. And, I still have to set my playoff roster. Unfortunately, with a couple of guys injured, I don't know if we're actually going to have a full playoff roster. Right now, we've only got 24 guys. Let's do it this way. And I don't think we have anybody else who's actually eligible for our playoff roster. So I think we're going to go in with 11 pitchers and 12 hitters. Unfortunately, so we're not going to have anybody else that can play on our playoff roster because nobody else pitched for us during the year or it's eligible. Unfortunately, the only other guy that was eligible got hurt. So, anyways, so we'll be one guy short to start the postseason, but otherwise, again, a really solid campaign for us. We'll be playing Los Angeles in the first round to try to make it back to the World Series. So that was really pretty much it. I'll just give you a quick rundown of how the rest of the league did. So the Yankees there weren't any real close division races this year. I mean, the Angels and Astros got kind of close at the end of the year, but Yankees kind of pulled away from the Blue Jays. Like I said, we just ran away with the Central, and then Houston and Los Angeles, they really only closed the gap because of the 6-game winning streak at the end, but otherwise it was pretty much Houston the whole way. Philly ended up winning over the Mets at the end. There's a somewhat close, but they ended up beating the Mets. The Phillies are back in. Cubs ran away with the Central over the Reds and the Brewers, and then the Dodgers also just crushed everybody in their division. They clinched like a couple days after we did their division. So those were your division winners. And you can see the playoff matchups. It's in the division series, it's us versus LA, New York and Houston, the Dodgers and the Mets, and Philly and Chicago. So that's pretty much that. And then I'll just give you guys kind of a quick overview for the American League in terms of kind of the leaders in the clubhouse here. So you can see some of the top guys here. Obviously Harper is pretty high up in a lot of these. He's, like I said, he's probably the favorite in the clubhouse for the MVP. The Cy Young is going to be interesting. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Fulmer that's going to win. But this Blaine Enlow, he made a couple starts for us, but he was mainly a reliever. He's going to be in contention because he went 18-1 this year with a 3.07 ERA in 105 innings. So that's like unheard of that a guy who's mainly a reliever gets 18 wins on the season. But as you can see, Fulmer pretty much led the league in a lot of important categories. He was, he was second in ERA. He had the most innings pitched. He was second in strikeouts. He was first in home runs per 9. He was second in hits per 9. Top 5 in strikeouts per 9. Led the league in WHIP. Was second in fielding independent pitching and led the league in WAR. So I think it's going to come down to Fulmer and Groom. And I think Fulmer's ultimately going to win. So, but all right, guys. With that, I want to thank you guys for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe. Comments and feedback are always welcome, and I'll be back for the 39th episode, which will be the 2024 ALDS versus the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.